You're listening to the Delusion Rehab Podcast. My name is Lauren, and if this is the first time you're joining, know that the Delusion Rehab Podcast is all about learning that we have delusions, my friend, and they require some breaking free of them. So let's jump into today's very special pod, which strikes a nerve with me, especially today. I did want to tell you very honestly that most of my podcast topics, while I have them in advance, I never quite know which one I'm going to record until the night of because I never quite know what's going to hit me that day. But whatever it is, it's going to be passionate enough that I have that drive in me to want to work through that delusion even further than I have. So today we're talking about a big delusion here that if I work hard enough, I'll be rewarded the way I want to be. So, right off the bat, you can tell the key part of this delusion is the way I want to be. I think in life, we can come up with lots of examples of times we've worked hard and been rewarded for it. And it's come in the form of an income. If it's a job, it's come in the form of recognition or acknowledgement, maybe awards, maybe presentations where you get to stand on stage and have an ovation for you for being so amazing at whatever it was you were amazing for. But many times we do things with accentual effort and it doesn't quite make the mark in our minds of what we would have expected a reward to be. You first have to realize what kind of reward you're looking for to understand why you feel you need to earn the reward. So, I did a little research on my own to understand the reward and incentivization theories that go through our neural processing to understand why we enjoy incentives to get good habits in our system to live out the lives that we want for ourselves. All our decisions are driven by pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain. And you can use simple examples for this. You can say that I want to find a job that I would like to perform every day because it outweighs the fact that I have to work every day for my income, which is a pain, but I'll avoid the pain a bit by enjoying what I do. You can also use the example of, seeking out an easy task to do so you can cross it off your to do list. I've heard of so many people being gratified by this one particular daily action of, I'm going to start my to-do list with a couple things that I've already done so I can write them off. Um, that is easy and it's less painful because it's already been done possibly, or it is so easy that you get immediate gratification by marking it done. Those are just some simple examples of how a reward system works in our mind, whether it's through a physical reward like money or, maybe for a personal satisfaction. And often rewards require some type of input to gain them. So anything in life that you really want, you got to work for. I thoroughly enjoy working out with Autumn Calabrese. I've been working out with the Beachbody body programs for 6, 7 years now. And Autumn always says, you can't wish for it, you have to work for it. And I have taken that in every aspect of my life. And the biggest milestones of my life, it's come with a lot of work, finding a spouse, pursuing a career, finding a community of people that actually fits for what I connect with. All of it takes some amount of grit and energy. So when we think about what work it's going to take to get those things, we imagine that some of them it's going to take hard work. It's not just going to be a little effort or a little intention, it's going to be a lot. And there's oftentimes we think about rewards that we'd like to have in our life that we feel we are out of reach to ever receive them. I'll be honest, David and I are looking for a house in the state of Connecticut right now. And I'll tell you what, even when you feel that you have the power of buying a home, it feels so powerless at times because things are going on the market for tens of thousands of dollars above asking, and it's making the process feel stressful because it's hard to not view it and think, well, is that even a reality for us? When you look at your current position, is there discontentment? That would lead you to believe that that's why your rewards are meaning so much to you, or the pursuit of the rewards is meaning so much to you, because you can't imagine yourself content where you are. It's Just sit with it a second. Sit with that thought. Sit with the fact that contentment does tend to start with a dissatisfaction in the current situation and always looking for something better. And even by the time you get to that next best thing, you're just looking for the next best thing. So, knowing that there's a sub delusion here of I should be further along by now, or I'll be happy when this happens. If it starts to creep into your vernacular, it typically means that you feel that no matter how hard you work, you still might not get the reward you want. So then, if we think that might be the case, why do we work so hard at all? And I think the reason deep down is because the feeling of reward, it's not coming from within. You're not experiencing intrinsic reward, and you're looking for it externally because you're not feeling it spiritually. You're not feeling it for your own self. And so it seems to only make sense that external rewards and things based off of effort are the only way you can get anything. So it's almost like you're grasping at straws because that's a minimalist view of what you have access to. It doesn't feel like provision, it feels like famine. And you know what, guys? It's taken me until the age of 33 to finally understand what this is all about. This is all rooted in a lack of self love. And I'm going to be gentle with my own self while I'm giving this podcast because this is very fresh and raw. I was surprised that I felt ready to talk about it, but I think it's because at the root of all of the things I struggle with, it is because I am not giving myself any grace whatsoever. It's the root of my perfectionism. It's the root of my frustration in other people because if I feel like I can't control my own self, at least I can get frustrated at someone else. Like, that's even hard to say out loud. Like, that's definitely why, because I'm feeling like I need to blame someone, and when I've blamed myself 100% of the time, it's like I finally am like moving on to somebody else to blame. Only through self-love have I ever been able to experience the satisfaction of understanding that I can control the consistency in which I treat myself right. The world does not reward us consistently, meaning you could do the same exact task in 1 year versus another, and the money won't look the same, the acknowledgement won't look the same. People will not possibly even see you've done anything, and you could be working your tail off. So I've learned that by seeking the way God sees me and seeking the way I see myself is where the consistency needs to reside. So then the reward comes from not having to earn it, but then I'm inherently given grace because of who I am in God. The most beautiful kind of love is the one that is given out of sacrifice without a deserved cause. As freely as I've been able to do that for other people without even thinking about it twice, I seem to hold myself to the highest standard. And even when I give myself a moment of self love, let's just say I come home from a long day of work and I just want to relax for an hour with no true quote unquote productive tasks happening, or I want to prepare my favorite dessert to end the night. Whether it's an unproductive hour or it is dessert at the end of the night, guaranteed I will feel some level of guilt on like a level of like 4 to 6 out of 10 for doing those things. And I have started to use the mantra that my mentor, Kim Fitzpatrick, uses when she says, we don't do that anymore. We do not treat ourselves with bare minimum self respect and subsequently feel guilty about it. Like, we don't do that anymore. So, then what's the antidote to that very relatable feeling of not wanting to be in an endless chase of working for every single reward you ever get in life? You give yourself rewards regularly to the point that they are a natural part of your life and they are not dependent on anything except the fact that you are a human and you exist. A reward, by definition, is because of effort. And maybe you start out that way by saying, I woke up today and I don't know how I'm going to deal with the XYZ people that I'm supposed to connect with today. But because I woke up and I'm attempting to do that, I will give myself 5 minutes in the morning to sit in silence, no phone, and just breathe and be. I don't want to skip ahead too far, but we are going to go into 10 different practical ways of how you can give yourself self love that doesn't require you to have done anything as a prerequisite to get the reward, to give yourself that act of love. And the reason is because I don't want you to just feel like you don't have to work for your rewards. I don't want you to feel like you need to justify them either. The worst combination is when you need to feel the justifying the work that you've done. That's the worst. I've mentioned in past podcasts that when I've had performance reviews with my boss, they have said to me that if they give me feedback, remember that lovely corporate word, feedback, then I need to accept what I'm told and not dig down into the justification. And I think it's out of a place of feeling, well, I don't think I'm going to get a reward for what they just told me, but maybe if I justify the work, they'll understand and they'll at least give me a, you know, pat on the back. And it just feels like a frustrating task to do it all. It's not something that is very becoming in terms of the eyes of the other person. But then at the same time, you don't want to feel like you're relying on someone else all the time to be the one that's hanging the carrot in front of you, dangling that gift or that reward or that incentive that makes you do the work in the first place. So let's walk through 10 different practical ways that you can introduce self love into your life. That what I want to stress here does not need a prerequisite to earn. This is the hardest concept. It's the delusion itself that earning it is not necessary. I will say right from the start that some of these can be easily done every day for free. Some of them, it's probably a once in a while thing, maybe because it's a little bit of money or a little investment, but it does not need to happen only when someone told you you are deserving of it. I say that because many of these things I have felt like I can't relax or I can't settle my brain to feel comfortable doing any of these things until I feel I've done enough, whatever that means. And David has looked at me and said, Hun, go do that thing. Go do one of these 10 things and don't feel like you need to apologize for it. And don't feel like you need to justify that you worked an 8-hour day and spent 3 hours with Bella and took the dog for a walk and made food. He's just like, stop, just do one of these things. And here are the things I wanted to offer to you as potential suggestions for how you can give yourself some rewards and acts of self love, regardless of the work involved. First one I'll start with, pick a hobby and do not apologize for it. Right now, what I'd say my hobby is going to be, it's a little bit of a secret still, but I am working on a skill of marketing myself, essentially. I've been in the social media game for 5+ years, and I love being able to show others things that have come from me. And is it something that truly is just an enjoyment of mine and I would do for free? Absolutely. And there are plenty of things that people do that they might have to invest a little money to do them, but it shouldn't be something that you have to apologize for or feel awkward about. For the longest time, I felt awkward that I liked to, go to these certain type of gym classes when, I was living in New Jersey and then in upstate Connecticut. And I felt embarrassed to tell people sometimes that I like teach piano lessons. Like back before COVID, I was teaching like 3 different kids how to play piano. And I don't know why that was embarrassing to me. In fact, I wasn't even doing that for free, but I was thinking like how is that going to seem productive to people? And that's really the fallacy. I shouldn't have worried about it at all. I wanted to learn a skill, I wanted to develop a skill, and I'm developing skills now because that is giving me intrinsic happiness, joy, and value. Number 2, order the takeout meal that you usually feel you can make a dupe of at home. Okay, look, I know I can try to make sushi at home. I know I can try to make Indian cuisine at home. 9 out of 10 times, it is better for me to pay the money to get it from the places I love and savor it so wholeheartedly. First of all, half the time I get takeout, it's like a 2, maybe even 3 meal serving. So do the girl math. It's like that's like 2 to 3 dinners worth for my week out of one takeout meal. And I feel so blessed to be able to do that every once in a while. And while it's not something that I do every day or every week, it is something that gives me gratification to enjoy a simple pleasure of life, which is to enjoy the meal in front of you. Now, something I need to do a little more of is savor my meal by not having electronics on and maybe even eating alone sometimes if I have the luxury as a mom to just savor what I'm doing and say, yes, I purchased this for myself. Was it because I had a hard day? Maybe. Was it because I had a good day? Maybe. But was it because I lived today and did my best today? That's almost always going to be the case. Remember, if you have 20% to give that day, if you give all 20%, you did the best you could. If you had 80% in you and you gave 80%, that's the best you could do. The best you've ever done, all right, you're probably only going to hit that PR every once in a while. Just going after life with whatever energy you have that day, that is so pure. That is so righteous. And you should honor yourself for that. All right, number 3, morning and evening stretches. I'm better about this in the morning. As many people know, I'm a morning person. Evening's a little tough because I've been on a kick lately of watching some shows, more like binging some shows with David that are kind of older shows. Right now, we're watching Westworld. No spoilers, please. It is amazing. I think we're actually probably going to finish the show by tomorrow. But it's so important to give your body the essence of caring for it, even if it's for 5 minutes. I sit in front of a computer most every day for my job. And since I work 5 days of the week, it's 8 hours a day. It's exhausting to my body to just be stiff like that. And even though I do work out in the morning, my body's went through everything that day. And your body carries a lot. I've learned from a book called The Body Keeps Score that things that are happening to you emotionally and spiritually, they sit in your muscles, in your infrastructure, essentially, and give you tension that you don't anticipate. So, by stretching in the morning and evening, like I said, I do a 5-minute video just to kind of keep myself focused on something so I'm not just like mindlessly doing it and not really paying attention. I use videos that trainers walk through a specific body part that I might be struggling with or just an all around stretch. And truly on the days when I don't want to exercise wholeheartedly and all out, I will often choose to go with a stretch video. And doing that at a minimum each day sets yourself out in a really good position. Number 4, read whatever freaking book you want. Now, I say this like that because, okay, productivity can feel very tied to whatever book you read, right? And so I'm not necessarily saying I'm a book lover. You won't necessarily find me in a book mode for hours. Like I have ADHD. That should be enough to explain I can't sit in a chair for even more than like 4 pages without having to get up and get a drink or a snack. So what I get frustrated by is when I want to just read a book for pure enjoyment, even if it's I don't even read a lot of fiction, but I do just like to read things truly on topics I'm interested in. And that should be not only okay, but encouraged. Um, sure, maybe it's not a bestseller. Maybe it's not a self help book. Maybe it doesn't teach me a new life skill. Um, but even if it did, I should just be able to enjoy whatever book I want and not feel like I need to compare it. That kind of goes back with the hobby too. Even if you want to do a hobby that is kind of mainstream, like just do what you want to do. This is your time to be able to choose something that no one else is going to have an influence in. That if you were alone on an island and had all the materials and the options, that these are the things you would do when no one was watching. And as hard as that is, it is probably one of the best ways I've been able to love on myself to then be able to actually get out of a habit of not even worrying about what other people think of what I do. All right. Number 5, I saved this to the middle because I think if I started with this, people would be like, oh, here we go. Like the gratefulness journal. I have had such a love hate relationship with this piece of advice, and I'm so glad to report that I am finally in love with this advice for good. Multiple times, I have heard the connection that you cannot be grateful and discontent at the same time. Personally, I go after rewards that I feel are content in my spirit. As much as I do enjoy the pleasures of life, I really do enjoy the pleasure of having my purpose fulfilled. And it does strike as a bit of a hard place when you're in the middle of a going after your purpose and you feel like you've hit a roadblock or you feel like you are on the downhill spiral of a roller coaster of emotion about it and it just doesn't feel like what you wanted it to be. Gratefulness has opened up your eyes to things that you would never even think you would ever lose. Um, Simple things. I This was embarrassing, okay? I'm going to tell a little story here about my embarrassing moment back in October. I lost my phone to the fact that it had so much data on it, it could not be turned on again. And I'm going to use this moment as a public service announcement to tell me do not let it get to that point because you might not be able to open the phone ever again. And you are just left with whatever is on your iCloud or whatever cloud storage you use. So don't do what I do and procrastinate on that and then end up in a position where I went without a phone for 5 days because, long story short, I forgot my password, which is another ADHD thing to just layer on that mess. And I got locked out of my Apple ID. And then I had to wait for a replacement phone. And it was embarrassing because I was so discontent. It was crazy. I wasn't sleeping when I realized that people could not get in contact with me except for a normal like desktop email or Facebook, it was so stressful that I was embarrassed for myself. And one of the things that snapped me out of it was actually going to a work event that was a volunteer event. It was actually at a Seeing Eye Dog Foundation site where they not only train the dogs, but they match families to have these dogs. And the only thing that got me through those 5 days of being essentially off the grid, minus my work email and Facebook account, was being grateful for the opportunities that I had never gotten to experience before until I simply sat with them and had no electronic or social media influence beyond making sure people were safe and okay. I do not need perfection. I do not need connection. I do not need hardly anything to be happy to wake up in the morning and to be grateful that I had another day here. And I tell that story again because discontentment is so easy to sit with when you're only looking at the frustration in front of you. As soon as you turn the perspective to say, I'm ready to appreciate whatever is in front of me, and not only that, but be thankful because someone always has it worse than me, it is a perspective shift that will change your life forever. And I not only want to start my day with gratefulness, I want to end my day with gratefulness. I want to tell David about gratefulness that I have. and make it truly part of my nature. So again, if I had started with that, I don't think that you guys would have been like really keen. You'd be like, really? I could have Googled this. But no, that's really become a big part of my life now is making time for gratitude. So this next one, I recognize it's not the everyday option, but maybe a little bit more for girls. A spa day or an indulgence that you do once in a blue moon. But the thing is that it comes with no more reason attached to doing it than you need to reset yourself. So about 2 weeks ago, I booked a spa afternoon, I'd say, at the Foxwoods Casino. And I'd never been there and I didn't go with anybody. And it felt like the weirdest freaking experience because I'm an introvert in the very lightest sense when I need complete non stimulation. But when I'm doing something that seems fun or new, I usually want to do that with people. All I'm going to say is I needed a major, major reset. And it wasn't just from work, and it wasn't just from personal life, and it wasn't just from momming or being married or living normal life. It was just me realizing that I had hit the peak on all those things. And I was trying way too hard, and I was not giving myself enough grace. And I got myself that spa day. And when I tell you that I left and said thank you to myself, because I was like, yes, it was a little investment and it was a little out of my comfort zone to do it alone, but I did it for myself knowing that I needed it. And it wasn't just to be pampering on myself, it was to be generous to somebody who gets up every morning and does her best. And that's all I needed to get that day. And like I said, it doesn't come around all that often, but when it does, I think to myself, you know what? I'm going to take myself up on that offer and I'm not going to reject that offer every time it shows up on my mind. All right. Seventh on the list, blast your favorite music in the house by yourself and let yourself feel whatever emotion you want with no judgment on how you dance or how you sing off key or what emotions rise to the surface when you're listening to whatever music is your cup of tea. Like I said, I'm not an introvert by nature. I'm very rarely introverted. I'm very social. But when I want to feel my full self with no expectations of what anyone else wants from me in that moment, it is the best possible feeling. And we don't get that option enough in life. And when we do give ourselves that option, it gives us a wholehearted feeling of being connected to the true us. Because I think if we think about the true us, regardless of what other people think, we'd actually really like ourselves. No, we wouldn't just love ourselves, we'd actually like who we see. All right, number 8, say no to something that will knowingly be emotionally unhealthy for you. This is not an option every time. We certainly have emotionally stressful things happen that we either can't avoid because it's part of our normal day, or we get thrown into something with no warning. But what I'm talking about is an event or a invitation or a request or the opportunity to leave the house or to jump on a Zoom call or to make a stop on your trip somewhere because you want to fit in every possible thing that you can. I'm speaking to myself because I try to book my Pennsylvania trips way too full because I just want to see everyone and do everything in like 2.5 days' time. It's never realistic. And when I'm approached with an opportunity to do something, my extroverted social self wants to say yes, even if I know it's going to be an emotional heartache, however that is. It's going to bring up a wound, or it's going to bring up an awkward situation, or it's going to make me feel like I can't be my full self and I've got to layer something over top of it just to feel normal. I don't necessarily care what makes it emotionally unhealthy for you, but if you have the opportunity to say no to it and set a boundary, do it. And easier said than done. I've had to do this at least like 10 times this calendar year where I've said no to things that I would have said yes to immediately. and I would have stressed myself out. I would have put myself in an emotionally unhealthy spot because I just simply was trying to use too many hours of my day. Ironically, I get so frustrated when I don't feel productive. And then at the same time, it's like, okay, but if I was at least a little less productive, I could even think about what I'm feeling. I'm barely giving myself enough time to process my own emotions. So maybe I need to say no every once in a while. And maybe I need a weekend home without doing all the things and all of the shopping and all of the chores and all of the obligations. Maybe I just need to sit my butt down and think about my life and journal and pray about what the next step is for me and just be willing and open to what is coming and not be so forceful of my next steps. I'm just saying, girl or guy, it's not good to be unhealthy emotionally 24/7 and push yourself through it. Number 9, kind of, piggybacking off of that last one, is to take an emotional sick day the second you question that you should take one. This is my second best piece of advice, and that's why I put it towards the tail end because, as much as I am attuned to my mental health, I struggle to take sick days that are meant for my emotional and mental health. For some reason, it's hard to get through my head that if I do not have a physical ailment, I should not be throwing in the towel on a work day. I'm very fortunate in the amount of sick days I have, but I'll tell you what, that sick day bank feels a lot smaller when you have a kid that entered daycare and you ended up with 2 neuroviruses in the last 6 months and all of the sinus infections when you never used to get them at all. Taking a sick day feels really precious. And I've started to make it a rule because it's really only happened up to 3 times a year, honestly, where I wake up and I'm like, there is no flipping way I am about to be productive or a peaceful soul with anyone I come into contact with. And I need to check myself before I wreck myself, take a sick day, do what that means. Probably means having ice cream for breakfast and playing a video game. I am not even kidding you when I say that. That has been one of my sick day rituals for the longest time. And I don't think anyone would look at me and think, oh, yeah, that's totally what she does in her free time. But it is 100% what I do in my free most time. A 10:30 Yasso bar with Disney Dreamlight Valley. You better believe you'll find me there. And taking that emotional sick day doesn't feel good when I take it, meaning the moment I have to submit it. But I cannot to this day remember a sick day that I took for my emotions that I regretted later. I can't. I never regretted it because not only did I feel maybe not 100% better the next day, but better enough to be a better self, to put my best foot forward the next day. It was an act of self love that I would never retract. And again, it doesn't happen all the time. If you do feel like you have those days more than often, then I would absolutely recommend that you go to talk to somebody about it, a professional. I see a therapist, I see a psychiatrist, and I have Christian counselors that I speak to on a regular basis. I have a support system and I'm not ashamed to talk about it. And it's because of the fact that there were and are periods in my life that I've been in a very depressed and anxious place, and an emotional sick day every day felt like an awesome life. That's when I did need to get help. But if you are the normal person that has the occasional day of, I don't want to do today, take the day because you're actually sick, whether you believe it or not. You're sick in a healthy mindset, and that will never carry you forward in a good place. All right, you guys, ready for that final tip on how to give yourself an act of self love and self care? Do something that you would usually document on social media and do not post a thing about it. Now, for some people, this might be really easy because you don't even post anything on social. Most people, though, if it's something worth posting, like a vacation or a special memory with your spouse or your significant other, um, a day with your child, a day to just be you in a chair with a coffee, a book, a journal, and your imagination, resist the urge to share it because sharing it kind of leads down a path of feeling like you want validation for getting the opportunity to do that thing. And remember, the delusion at the beginning of this pod was let's not focus on things that are purely for reward. Let's focus on doing things that fill us up and don't lead to anyone giving us validation about it. If we enjoy going to the beach for an afternoon, we don't need to post a story about it. I'm talking to myself when I say that. I'm like, you know what? Not everyone needs to know where I am today. But also, I just want to be able to enjoy this for me and not let anyone else in on it. Like, it's purely for me. We give gifts and secret notes and special acknowledgments to people all the time that no one else knows about. We don't post it all over social media. So, why wouldn't we give ourselves a moment of self love and not feel like it has to be broadcast? So the key is that not one of those acts of self love comes with the caveat of doing it only after you accomplish something. Frankly, I've done more of that than I believe is kind to myself. I've stripped myself of life's enjoyment because I didn't feel I earned it. And so I wouldn't give it to myself. Couple things. That feeling is a cultural feeling. No one is sitting there telling me, you don't deserve this, Lauren. So don't. Don't try to think that you should and don't act like you have the worthiness to. No one's sitting there telling me that. It's just a cultural vibe. And I'm like I said, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to give into the cultural vibe of work hard and play none because that's just not my life. We can be more productive. But what is productive anyway? I know I talked about it a little bit before, like an hour of complete relaxation after work, not feeling productive. Productivity can be sitting and clearing your mind. There's an exercise I really like to do that you take 5 minutes, set a timer on your phone, and write down every single thing that's on your mind: obligations, to dos, things you don't want to forget, projects you're working on, simple pieces of data you just wanted to write down and haven't done it yet. Just take 5 minutes to do it. It is so freeing. Usually at about 3 minutes, 30 seconds, or 4 minutes, I'm like, yeah, I think that's kind of everything that's going on up there. And maybe I'll spend another minute to just like really dig deep and be like, what else do I need to remember? But it's almost more productive to just put all of my thoughts on a paper for 5 minutes than it is to try to do all the things on the paper in one day. So groundbreaking concept that you shouldn't have to complete your to-do list in a day. But again, I'm a recovering ADHD perfectionist, so it's going to take some time. Got to give myself grace, right? And recognize that we might only be seeking rewards because we've been looking for something to fill the gap of deserving self love. We've been trying to find something that's, well, if I don't deserve self love, at least I can get someone to tell me that I deserve self love and earn a reward for it. And we have to learn that self love is never supposed to be earned. All right, guys, 2 songs for the week. The first one I actually listened to on the car ride home, and I was like, man, I forgot how much I love this song. You know how you put a song on your Spotify and you're like, wow, I've not heard that song come on my playlist in maybe over a year. And that song used to be like on repeat at a certain part of my life. You can even imagine maybe what home or apartment you were living in, what job you had, what your life looked like then. I love when a song gives you that reflection back. And there's a song called No Other Love by Jasmine Murray. And it talks about how we attempt to go after falling for the true love, the unconditional love, and we try to find it from the world. And every time it humbly comes to a realization of knowing that God and Jesus is the only one that will keep us grounded in love. And knowing that we are adopted by God to be a child under his care, there's no better feeling than that. No other love can match it. And so when we're thinking about self love, just know that it's inherent to the gift that we were given. Even David and I talk about the fact that we love each other the most in terms of human perspective, but we always put Jesus in front. We even make that distinction in our conversations. And there's a sign in the front foyer of our house that talks about how the three strands of a braid are stronger, meaning the husband, the wife, and God as the center. It's truly the reason why a godly love even exists between us, because we have that as the central role in our life. And that song reminds me of that every time. And yes, it's vibey. Even though it's a Christian song, it's got the EDM going. And I had to use this last song. It's perfect in my mind. Any vibe about giving yourself a moment to love yourself for who you are in the moment you're in, no matter what you look like or feel like. The song's Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield. So recently, this song was featured in a movie that's kind of newer. It's by Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, called Anyone But You. It's filmed in Australia, and it's definitely a rom-com. It reminds me of the time back in 2015 that I went to Australia. So we're already talking 10 years ago. One of the most free-spirited times of my life, and I felt like truly the world was my oyster. I was out of college, not even a whole year, and I was like, this is the life. But I truly did not know where my life was going to go. There were new things that I was starting to experience and understand. And so, I had a lot to look forward to, but I was also worried I was going to make a lot of mistakes. And I was nervous that I was going to take these forks in the road that weren't going to lead me the right way. But this song, it just has self love written all over it. It speaks to your uniqueness and the fact that, we all have feelings that are very unique in our own. So even another human being can't exactly know the exact chemical reaction that's going on in our hearts and minds when we're having the feelings we do. But to embrace that, it's not just something to be ashamed of because it's so unique and it's not understood. It's about embracing that story and that journey, to not focus so intently on the accomplishments, but to make the story about the journey and about the getting there that got you to those milestones. And it all comes in the self love. It all comes in saying that you are worthy enough because you were given grace to begin with. So give it to yourself. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Go like the pod, subscribe, go check out the Instagram and the Facebook, and I will see you guys next time.